Hello, guys. So I'm gonna try this one live as well. I like the live stream format. I'm still fairly new to this, so I'm still experimenting with this whole channel thing and stuff like that. And it's a new thing for me to be able to do live, so I'm gonna try that now. Also, there's a thing where maybe I should give some time for people to join on the channel if I want to have live chat with the audience. But this would kind of make like a bad video to watch afterwards. So I'm trying to balance this thing between having a good VOD and having a good live stream. I'm gonna start by also making an announcement because I got this new series I wanna do now. I did an episode last week on Saturday of RPG design talk, and last week was with Viktor Gorchev, and this week I should have the Red Room coming join me. But since the Red Room are in Europe, in Portugal, and they're not insane like Victor, I'll make the show a little earlier. It's going to be at 1500 EDT. So that's 3 p.m. Eastern time for Americans. And so I'm going to talk with Miguel from the Red Room. It's going to be on Saturday, but 3 p.m. Eastern time, 1500 EDT. So I hope you'll join me now. Will join me then for that show. What I wanted to talk about today, let's jump into topics. I want to talk about tiers of play. And tiers of plays they're important to consider because they have a different, they bring a different feeling, and they have a different raison d'être. And one thing that people often misunderstand when talking about tiers of play is that tiers of play are not about the power of the character. They're about the impact of their action. And of course, those two things are related. A more powerful character is going to have like a broader impact in general. But you could have like a old campaign in the same 1 or 2 tiers of play if you want. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And some tiers of play are not going to be adequate for some type of campaign, for some setting. The tiers of play I would describe, I would identify maybe 5 of them. There would be the personal, the local, the national, the mondial, the universal. So let's go through that and go through some example of all of them. The personal tier of play is one of them I prefer. Is the mod core. In this tier of play, the characters they need to adventure. They don't just do it like as a hobby and stuff like that. They're down on their luck. They're kind of loser. They're kind of forced into it for survival usually, or because they don't know how to do anything else, or because stuff happen. But it's not something. It's not adventuring. It's not a survival activity. It's not something you do because you're bored. It's something you need to do to survive. And a lot of and it's personal, so the story is going to be much smaller in scope. It's going you do something to get some loot. You go fight an old enemy or somebody that gets in your way or that threatens your existence in some way. And a lot of the Conan stories are in that tier of play. Conan doesn't go around and like Conan never really saved the world. Like I'm talking about the Howard story. I don't know what they did in those picture book because I didn't read those. And in the most recent movie of with Momoa as Conan, they also in the Conan the Destroyer, they kind of messed that up. That's a big misstep they made, and that's why those movies are not don't feel like Conan. But the first Conan movie, that's what it is about. It's personal revenge. He's not going out to save the world and stuff like that. Does he have a greater impact? Yeah, there's this skull that can cause some local trouble, but he's doing it for his own sake because he wants to, yeah, take revenge. This is one of my favorite tiers of play. I find I like those small stories that you can relate to. That's the big part of it. It's very, very relatable. Hello, Shadow. Thank you for joining me live. I'm just talking a bit about tiers of play, so I'm going to go through them a bit. The next tiers of play is, well, what I call the local tier of play, and this is the tier of the vigilante. We don't see that tier explored that much in fantasy. Like the personal tier of play is explored a lot in the sword and sorcery type of story. The local tier of play and the national and mondial are exploring other type of fantasy, in epic fantasy and stuff like that. But in the local type of play, we see those stories explore with stuff like the Batman movies. I love the Batman movies. Batman is not out there saving the world. He is making an impact on his local community. He is not involved in politics. And at this tier of play, the heroes, they no longer have the need. Like they kind of made it. They made it out of the personal. They made it they out of the shit. Now they have like some success. They're thriving in a way, and they go adventuring because they want to, in a way, because they fulfill a cause, or they have some appeal of some kind, or maybe because like the peasant asked them for help because they made a name for themselves. And those are often linked. They're not clear cut. Oftentimes there's overlap, like by doing stuff to get themselves out of trouble or out of poverty and stuff like that. They made a name for themselves. They might have impacted the local community, and now the local community is coming to them to ask for help, for to face a bigger threat. And there's also, when you go from one tier of play to the next, you can go back to a different tier as well. Like this happened with Conan as well. Like Conan got some stories, where somebody from the community came to ask for help, and he did a job for them. He worked for them. He was like a local hero at that point. He wasn't nothing big. He wasn't like a world mover. And then he got some payment or something, or some reward. He lost it all. He went back to the personal. That was a cycle that happened a lot in Conan, and that's a way you can also have those old campaigns staying mostly in personal, sometimes taking a foreign, a little like step in the local, the one day, and then the heroes go back. Like a lot of the, like I said, out of the sword and sorcery, when the heroes go carousing and they drink all the money that they got. That's what happened. That's what the cycle they get, or they get in trouble with some other people, and then they need to revenge. So they go back to something personal. And when you're in the local level, the tone kind of shift as well, because now the player can feel that their character is more like heroic, because, like I said, they're not there for survival anymore, and it's the community seeking them out. So this is an important step as well, to get a different feel from that. At the first, it's like a little bit of you're in the despair almost. It's harsh, it's tough, and then, oh, you made it. And if you want to go to move up to the next tier of play, when you go, what I say, like national, or it's when you impact, when you want your adventure have an impact on kingdoms and stuff like that. This is when you start like dealing with nobles, and the nobility, and you get involved in intrigue. And this is a good time to bring the tone or the feel a little back down. When they were helping peasants, stuff like that, the adventurer felt like heroes. They felt like bigger than themselves. They felt like people were seeking them out and stuff like that. Now they're dealing with the nobility. I think it's a good time to bring a feeling back of oh, you bit more than you could chew. You got, like, those people are snakes. You got something that you didn't know what you were getting involved into. There's like a lot of backstabbing and stuff like that. A lot of cloak and dagger. Early Game of Thrones, before like the whole like White Walker thing happened, was a lot of in that kind of a field, like, that kind of realm. Like, oh, they try to get power from one another, and they backstab each other and stuff like that. So, and also Conan, we can assume, got to that tier at some point, because we have the story of King Conan that has never been told. But even the first story of Conan, where he's skiing before like the rest of the stories are big flashback in a way, if they're told in the order that they've been published. But even when he's skiing, the story we experiencing of him as a king is a very personal one. Somebody like coming at him for personal reason. We can assume trying to get revenge, and trying to assassinate him, and he's alone in his room with his sword. But we can assume that at some point it did have some adventure that were in that field, in that realm, in that tier. Yeah, especially if you're in California, Shadow is it's gonna be early for you over there. But here it's past noon. So I think it's I was thinking maybe people are on break at work, stuff like that. I got some work to do inside now. It's very hot in here. So it's not gonna be a good day to work outside. We have like kind of like a heat wave. So National, it's all about like the cloak and dagger, the intrigue, the nobility and stuff like that. PCs feel in over their head. At some point, they're gonna overcome. They're gonna manage to go through that. And if you want to move to the next realm, and again, there's nothing that prevents you from going back down. Maybe you joined the nobility for a while, it didn't turn out as you wanted or as you thought it would, then you're being pushed back down. Of course, when you play a game with D&D with levels where just by play and just by like going through the motion, characters will become much more powerful, then it can become like a bit silly of saying like you're not gonna see like a level 15 wizard go back to do personal stuff. In different system, it's more permissible and stuff like that. Hello, the crafting gamer. Nice. Thank you for dropping by. But if you want to go, so yeah, you could like deal with the noble for a while. It doesn't turn out too well. Then you go back to be a local hero or even to personal story. There's nothing stopping you from that. But you can also go to the mondial level, where you try. It's the level where you save the world. And again, this is a tier where it's good to bring back the heroic feel. Hello, Rob. How you doing? Good evening, I should say, for to you, since you're over there and across the pond. So yeah, the mondial tier, you bring back the. If you got input in the chat, like if you think I'm saying something wrong, if you like, I'm doing those things live to have a discussion. If the chat is going slow, I'm not used to do stuff live, so I don't have many people coming over. So the chat doesn't move too fast, and obviously that's to be expected. So that's why I'm doing more this presentation type. But yeah, on Mondial, you're saving the world, and again, this bring back the heroic feel because the heroes are sought out. You know, the people like are seeking them out to because there's this big threat that's coming up, and they made their mark in the national. Like at first, when they were dealing with nobility and stuff like that, or with the government, or with the state, or with a lot of people in position of power, which are still people. They when they went through that, they made a name for themselves. They did good and stuff like that. So now they're being sought out to because of this bigger threat that is coming, that is threatening the whole world. And so now they have this feel of being the heroes again. And this is going to be a tough fight. It's going to be a tough adventure and stuff like that. But just the fact that you're being demanded and that there's the population, not everybody, but a big part of it is going to support you, is going to prop you up and stuff like that. When you are at the national level, a lot of people like they saw you joined like a bit of the higher class or the world mover in a way. People would be no world mover in normally, and they see you as an upstart and they want to push you back. Now they want to prop you up, and it's the same thing with the local vigilante. Like it kind of rhyme with this level. The local population is propping you up. You're the heroes here to save them, and again that come back. So it's a cycle when we go in wave like that. I think that's the right way, the right feeling to aim for. And of course, you don't want to do that all the time. But I think it's a good starting point. It's always like the same thing in music or in writing and stuff like that. You kind of have to know the rules before you break them. because then if you want to break them, you have to do it in a purposeful manner, and you have to know why you're doing that, what you're trying to achieve, the feeling you're aiming for. And when we go to the national and the mondial level, now you're kind of locked in to some extent, because you won't go back, or it's difficult to go back to personal level or to local level from those. And also it's something that you can have like maybe one adventure, maybe two if they're like kind of linked. Like you defeated the wizard that was like the lich, that was you defeated it, you push him back, at some point he's coming back, so you can have like two adventure like that. But how often can you save the world? This is something that when you reach those level, it's not only it's hard to go back down, but it's hard to stay in those levels for a long period of time. Those adventure can take a long time because they're big threats and stuff like that. But at some point, either you fail, and then that can be at the end of the campaign because you die, or you can, or maybe like the failure is just a delay, and you're just like, oh, you need to regroup and try again, or you succeed, and then either that also can be the end of the campaign. It's a good end. You save the world, or you can move on to the next tier, which would the universal tier. And that's the problem with the mondial tiers. I didn't mention a lot of the early Marvel movies were in that tier where the character was always saving the world. The early were more personal, like the origin story and stuff like that. But at some point, when they started doing the Avenger stuff, it was all about saving the world. And yeah, at some point it became silly, and there's like this scope creep, and then like they have to move on to the universal tier. And then again, that's something that's you can do once. Like, how often time can you save reality itself? And that's really something I would say one, because and that's again where you bring the tone back down. Now the threat is so big. Now you're not facing like some strong opponent that threaten the world. You're facing a god or some entity that threaten reality itself. And if you're powerful enough, and by that time you should be, hopefully, working together and stuff like that, you could you could succeed, but the success will come at a tremendous cost. You will have to sacrifice a lot. And I would say that the Lord of the Ring would fit in that tier more than the mondial tier, because like with the ring is an instrument for Sauron, which is basically almost a god, or a god. A Lord of the Ring fan would be triggered by this imprecision, but whatever. And we can see that once they manage to destroy the ring, Frodo doesn't go back to the Shire. He can't. You've been through much, and that's something that's important. Even if you win at that point, that is always going to be the end of the campaign. It should always be the end of the campaign, because you can always like break the rules, but like I said, as long as you know why you're doing it, because the heroes are going to be scarred, and they'll be transformed, and it costs them a lot. And that's the thing. When you're in that tier also, and that's also why I think Lord of the Ring fit in that tier, most people are not even aware of what is happening, because it's so beyond the understanding of normal people that you go through this old fight and you save the universe, and most people are oblivious. In the mondial tier, people know what's happening. It's a big threat. There's an army moving across the land. There's like this wizard, according to there's a wizard like raising dead or whatever. But the tier above, like, you're beyond that. And I think that most people like didn't know about Sauron getting back his army and the ring and stuff like that. That's why I think like the Lord of the Ring fit neatly in that category. And I think all those tier have their raison d'être, and if you shouldn't like necessarily skip them, and I think that's a mistake a lot of people do. If you want to have a long-term campaign, if you want to do just an adventure, you can start wherever you want, because you can even see, like, to take back the example of Lord of the Ring, Frodo he wasn't down on his luck or anything. He was just living a peaceful life and stuff like that. But he has been like kicked up right up to the universal tier. But that's like that is going to be his only adventure. He's doing that, and then he's moving out west. Rob say saving the world should be a very rare thing. High level stuff is always better for short term play, or it gets boring if you are too powerful. I prefer local, more threat. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is something you should do. The big stuff, it's something that happened once, maybe twice, and stuff like that. So if you're starting there, your campaign is not going to be a long term one. You're gonna have like this big event. Good point about the heroes not going back after being scarred. Yeah, I think that's an important thing, because you have to, when you're at those level and you're just like a mortal and stuff like that, maybe you pass beyond that, but even if you pass beyond that, you cannot go back to the mortal realm. There's no that's the end of the road. It's a good point to wrap up the campaign. And it's also a point where you, like I said, you always want to go up and you go down, and this universal epic tier is one that should be down. Like, you feel like the despair should come back big time, because because especially when you see the world around you, you know of this big threat, you know of it one way or the other, and the world around it is oblivious to it. Then you don't have this whole support and stuff like that. And then if you try to raise an army or try to make people aware of it, they're not gonna you're gonna be met with like derision, stuff like that. So what else? I think that's about what I want to talk about today. Like I said, those early tier, you can go from one to the other and come back, and they're my favorite tier of play, like the personal one, the local one, and stuff like that. And there's this no point of no return. Once you go into the saving the world stuff, then you have to move forward. Like the crafting gamers say, you can have a lot of high level world saving adventure, but it quickly turns into threat of the week type stuff, and this quickly lose its impact. At some point it feel like it just becomes silly. If you want to have a lot of if you want to do the threat of the week, those episodic adventure, the personal or the local thing is perfect for that. That's why like Batman works so well as a comic book format, because it is that local level. So there can always be a new villain that come up, and those can be like I said, if you play a game like D&D where the character is going to become like so powerful over time, that kind of push you and force you to go into those other tier. But there's other games out there where the power creep is much more managed, and you don't have this problem. So I think I'm gonna end this stream right here. I think that's gonna be a pretty decent, short enough video for people to watch later on, unless like there's comment in the chat there. Some people that want to ask questions and stuff like that, I can stay and hang out and reply them. I also want to see if Angar is going to do his show. If Angar is going to do his show, we're going to switch over to his chat. So I guess I'm going to end up the broadcast. I thank you all for coming, and those people that joined me, and those people that watch this video later on. If you watch later on, you have question or comments, leave them in the description down below. And I wish you a good day. Take care, and see you next time. Bye. Oh, and don't forget, on Saturday, it's gonna be at 1500 EDT, so 3 p.m. Eastern time for Americans. I'm gonna do this RPG design talk where I'm gonna talk with the Red Room, Miguel Ribeiro, and I don't know if Sylvia's gonna join. Hopefully she will. If she can't, I understand that. But so we're gonna have like this RPG design talk when we're gonna talk about who the Red Room is, what was their impetus to starting putting products out, some tips about design, about actually accomplishing stuff, because they've put a lot of stuff out in a short amount of time, and that's something I always like respect a lot. So join us on Saturday, 1500 EDT, on this channel for the next RPG design talk. Thank you for watching. Have a good day and take care.